Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming out this afternoon. We're holding this briefing at this point to provide everyone with an update on the current status of the district's preparations for what could be one of the strongest tropical systems in recent memory to affect our region. We expect that the effects of Hurricane Sandy and the nor'easter with which it is expected to join forces will be wide-ranging and may cause significant problems for our region. As of the latest bulletin from the National Weather Service, Sandy is an extremely large hurricane with extremely low central atmospheric pressure and an almost unprecedentedly large field of tropical storm force and hurricane force winds, extending more than 500 miles from the storm's center. The coastal areas of North Carolina and southeastern Virginia are already experiencing gale force winds, and those winds will be moving into our area soon, likely later tonight and tomorrow morning. Late in the day tomorrow is when our region may begin to experience hurricane force winds, and they will last a very long time, probably well into the day on Tuesday. Winds and rains will be at their worst between 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, that is 8 a.m. Monday morning, and 8 a.m. Tuesday morning during that 24-hour period. At the storm's peak, we will see an inch of rain every hour, and at times as much as 2 inches per hour. Now I think the prediction is for between 5 and 10 inches of rain. The peak extreme winds are expected to affect us between about noon tomorrow and the early hours of Tuesday morning. Let me be clear. This storm is unique, large, dangerous, and unlike anything our region has experienced in a very long time. We are likely to suffer significant power outages due to fallen trees and other debris, and we may experience significant street flooding. Let me also be clear, the district government is ready to meet this challenge. We had something of a test run with Hurricane Irene last year and this summer's derecho event. Our agencies have been preparing for several days, and I'm in contact with our regional partners, our utility companies, and federal officials from the president on down to coordinate preparations for this storm. As you probably know, I've already declared a state of emergency in the district. But we have also, as of this morning, sent President Obama a letter making a pre-landfall request for a presidential disaster declaration. This will help us get the federal help that we need to help defray the extra expenses that this storm is certain to impose on the District of Columbia. We are also working closely with Metro to monitor the situation and any closures or cancellations of our D.C. public transit system that may result from the storm. Let me mention now that our schools, our District of Columbia public schools, will be closed tomorrow. We are asking our charter school partners to follow behind us because now we have 35,000 kids who are enrolled in charter schools, and we're asking them to do similarly so that people are clear that our schools will be closed, public schools will be closed tomorrow. You're also going to hear additional details shortly from several speakers in order. You'll hear from Chris Geldart, who's the director of our Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency, Bill Howland, who's the director of our Department of Public Works, Terry Bellamy, the director of the Department of Transportation here in the city, George Hawkins, who is the general manager of D.C. Water, and Tom Graham, who's the president of PEPCO. But I do want to take a moment to focus on one area of concern in particular, and that is the threat of street flooding in Bloomingdale and LeDroit Park. This area has been especially problematic, as we know, in the last year. Even though this problem has been decades long, it's been exacerbated in the last year. And we've had a task force working on both interim and long-term solutions to mitigate flood damage there under the leadership of our city administrator, Alan Liu. Our Department of Public Works and D.C. Water have been working to clear storm drains, give residents and businesses in the area sandbags, and pick up leaves that could clog drains there. We also have our HSEMA bus, our command vehicle, stationed in the neighborhood, and our Office of Community Affairs will staff the Bloomingdale-Lee-Droit area to help us monitor the situation and address problems as they arise. In fact, we will have several dozen people who will be out on the streets of Bloomingdale and Lee-Droit this afternoon, knocking on the doors of residents there to try to make sure we can do everything we possibly can to help ameliorate the situation there and address problems as they may arise. Again, we're doing the best that we can to ensure that the heavy rains and winds do not put the residents of those areas through further damaging flooding to the extent that we can prevent that. So with that having been said, let me turn now to the director of our HSEMA, Chris Geldof. Chris.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to reemphasize a point that the mayor made, and that is this is a dangerous storm. And what I'd like to do is make sure folks understood the numbers that the mayor just gave as well. We are suspecting sustained winds to happen in our region, in our city, 35 to 45 miles per hour from noon tomorrow to at least 2 or 3 a.m. on Tuesday. That is a long period of time for sustained winds. What that means is, as we all know, down power line and more importantly, down trees. So we'd ask that the residents, as you are in your homes, if you have trees around your homes, do not stay in the upper areas of your home. Move to a lower area in your home. If you have the potential to be in a basement area during this that doesn't flood, we want to ask that you go down to a lower area so that the trees, as we have seen in the past, trees falling on homes and either hurting or killing people, we don't want that to happen. So be cognizant of the fact that we have a long duration of wind with a lot of rain. It'll bring down trees. So please get down to lower areas of your home during that time frame. As the mayor also said, 5 to 10 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. That is going to cause some flooding, and it's also going to cause those trees to become very susceptible to falling. So once again, protective measures for folks. Lower areas of your home, know that we're probably going to have trees coming down. With that, brings down power lines. If you see a power line that is down, report it to PEPCO or call 311. Most importantly is report it to PEPCO that we have a down wire. Do not go near it, stay away from it. We had that during our last storm, and we actually had a fatality due to that. So stay away from down power lines. Also, this being such a long period of time of a storm, knowing that we're going to have some effects in the city as far as power, pay attention to your emergency planning ahead of time. Now is the time to go out and get the supplies that you need to be prepared for at least 72 hours. That's a gallon of water an hour. That's non-perishable food. Understand that if you are very diligent in keeping your refrigerator closed, you got about 36 to 48 hours before that food spoils. So now is the time to make some preparations and have some food on hand that is non-perishable so you can sustain 72 hours after the storm ends, knowing that it's going to take a while for power to come back potentially for your area. Once again, for city services, if it's non-emergency city services, please call 311. That is our major source of information coming in, and it allows us to know what is going on, and we can get the help and the city services we can out to you as quickly as possible. Again, this is a very dangerous storm. We're asking folks to pay attention, stay indoors during the time frames that we mentioned, and to make sure that they're prepared for at least 72 hours after all of the effects of the storm stop with what they need for their families. With that, I'll turn it over to, I believe we have our DPW coming up. Yep.
Good afternoon. DPW has been doing a sandbag distribution. Yesterday we were at RFK. We distributed just under 10,000 sandbags. That's about 2,000 residents that picked them up. Another 1,500 that went to government agencies. Today we're at Coolidge High School. We're doing about 5,500 more bags. That's about another 1,000 residents that can be served. Yesterday we were in Bloomingdale and Detroit Park doing leaf collection, just trying to minimize any flooding that may occur in that area. We will be out tomorrow working with DDOT and helping in the tree removal if necessary. not all crews are going to be working on tree removal, so they'll be deployed throughout the city, clearing catch basins when the weather permits, so that we will minimize flooding. That's pretty much it for me.
Good afternoon, Terry Bellamy, DDOT. The DDOT team's preparing for the storm. As Director Howland indicated, one of our major concerns would be down trees. We have our crews that will be working 24 hours a day on 12-hour shifts. We have our contractor will be with us to work to remove trees. We're also responsible for the traffic signals and the street lights. Our crews, as well as our contractors, have already been notified to assist. If you come to a dog signal, treat it as an always stop. We're encouraging people during the storm not to be out on the road during that period of time with the high winds. And then for those who use public transportation, we encourage you to follow WMATA. They will be putting out alerts letting you know their service hours during the storm, as well as our circulator service that we run in the district. We really want to thank everybody in advance, especially all the agencies that are working with us. One of the critical things during the storm, as you can know, is the recovery. So thank to the citizen in advance, and please call 311 if you have a down tree or any power lines related to the storm. Thank you.
My name is George Hawkins, General Manager, DC Water. We are delighted to join the city in our response and preparation for this storm. We have been out since Thursday doing storm drain cleaning in areas that have historic flooding problems like Bloomingdale and LeDroit Park, and will maintain that work throughout the storm 24 hours a day. What we recommend in an unlikely event that you lose water pressure or sewer service, which is highly unlikely, but in case that happens, simple things you can do is fill plastic bottles with water and put it in your refrigerator so you have water on hand. You don't need to buy it right from the tap. Second, you can fill your tub with water and use that water to flush a toilet in the very unlikely event that you lose water or sewer service. So those are steps that an individual can take. We will continue working with the city. 311 is the number to use, or 612-3400 for us if we need to get out and clean the storm drain as the storm moves forward.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Graham. I'm the region president for PEPCO. I just wanted to stress a couple points that were made earlier. This is going to be unprecedented, destructive, and dangerous storm. It's something that we haven't seen before. Also mentioned that our original request was for about 2,500 resources for PHI, and now that number has moved to 3,700 resources for PHI. We've received commitments from about 1,473 crews at this time. Those crews are coming from the south, and they'll be working their way into our service territory. Probably two of the biggest points that are made here today are down power lines. Make sure that outages are reported, but more importantly, down power lines. Any wire that you see down should be considered live. It's not up to our customers to make the determination of whether that's electric or communications. Report it. Report the outages at 877-737-2662. Again, 877-737-2662. And the last point that I'll make, you heard information about sustained winds. That also creates an issue for the crews that are going to be doing the restoration work. It may be until Wednesday, until conditions become safe enough for those crews to go onto the streets. It would not be a safe condition for those crews at 35, 40 miles an hour to be in a bucket truck doing repairs. So our response with respect to that may take longer until the system clears. But I can assure you our preparations are ongoing, and we're continuing to seek mutual assistance through this whole process. Thank you.
Chief Ellaby was just mentioning that we should underscore with people that they should keep their personal cell phones charged so that you have a reliable communication mechanism available to you should other mechanisms not be available. Let me mention, too, that since the D.C. public schools will be closed tomorrow, there will be no special education transportation tomorrow either. So that those young people who normally are transported via the buses of the District of Columbia will not be transported as well. And we hope, I'm sure there'll be an announcement forthcoming soon about the charter schools, given the thousands of students that we have attending them. Let's open it up for questions. Tim and then Tom.
Two questions. Firstly, so you advising everyone to stay inside, stay in the house, and is there, do you plan to issue any kind of formal curfew or order to put that in citywide? And also, you mentioned that people on the street mentioned that you live around trees, you shouldn't maybe stay in top floors and that kind of thing. But a lot of people do live in apartments where they live on a third floor. What should those people do?
Well, you asked about, I guess people who have that option, Tim, they should go to the lower level. That was the admonition that was given earlier by Mr. Geldart and others. With respect to what those who live in apartment buildings should do, let me ask Chris.
So those that are living in the higher areas, if there are trees around that area and we're paying attention to what's going on, if we start to get the higher winds and the saturating rains, they need to get away from the windows, move to an interior portion of their apartment. That's usually the safest place in an apartment building. The bottom line is, if trees are going to come down and you know there's one outside your apartment or your house or whatever, you need to make sure that you're away from where that potential hazard is. And the bottom line in all this is, and we can talk about apartments and trees and all that, a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and people just need to pay attention and understand this is a dangerous situation. And to think about those things and take a look and do the right protective action for their circumstance. We gave a couple out today, and I would say for those in apartment buildings, move to the interior.
Can you explain
Before we move from that, let me answer the other part of the question. I have no plans right now to issue a formal curfew for people. We ask people to exercise good judgment. We're trying to give as much information about the impact of this storm, the things that people should do, and we hope people will exercise good judgment based on the information that we've been able to provide. Tom, you were next.
When it comes to Metro, you mentioned they'll be monitoring things and making announcements. Are there certain criteria that would trigger shutdowns, such as winds above certain miles per hour, things like that?
With Metro?
Yeah.
I don't want to venture into that, Tom. I think Metro should give that information themselves. But I know for example, with the fire vehicles, is it 35 miles per hour becomes a, you want to speak to that? Okay.
I can just say that when winds become above 40 miles per hour, it's possible we'll take our units off the street. It may delay our responses for emergencies.
All units
Sorry?
or certain, or the
All units, but we won't raise our ladders, but particularly our ambulances, which are hollow boxes that we use to transport people in times of emergencies. So if the wind conditions become dangerous, it'd be unlikely we put our units on the street.
You say 40 miles an hour?
Yes. We usually look at 50 miles per hour, but considering this situation, it may be 40 miles per hour. Just depends on the circumstance. If trees start to come down, we'll keep our units inside until we can safely respond to emergencies.
And we will consult with, as you might imagine, throughout this afternoon with Rich Sarles and the Metro system around how they are addressing these issues as well. But the authority to deal with Metro and shut it down or whatever the case may be rests with the Metro system itself. Derek?
Can we hear from MPD what this declaration means and what we should expect? Are you going to be able to put people at some of these dark intersections, maybe some of the more major roads, or would that be DDOT?
Chief Green.
We will be working in coordination with DDOT, DPW, all of our district partners throughout this event. We will be monitoring the roadways every half an hour, feeding that information back to our command center, which goes back to the Emergency Operations Center, and we will be listing all intersections that are out, and we will put a response between MPD and DDOT for the major intersections.
So that means either you or DDOT will...
Yes.
As a question for Mayor Gray, what about shelters? Are shelters being made available for people?
Yes, there are 16 shelters. There are 2 in each of the wards. There are 5 priority shelters. They would be Turkey Thicket, which is in Ward 5, Bald Eagle, which is in Ward 8, Emory Heights, which is in Ward 4, Guy Mason, and Chevy Chase, which will be a combination working in concert in Ward 3, and then the Deanwood Community Center, which is in Ward 7. But there is a list. Those are 5 or 6 among 16, so there'll be at least 2 in each ward. By the way, the street sweeping tomorrow will be suspended. Is that right, Bill? So that his crews can focus on specifically on the issues associated with this storm, and people do not have to move their cars tomorrow then, as they normally would for street sweeping purposes. Patrick?
I think it was last year that the Army Corps of Engineers built a flood wall, a national wall, in case of a catastrophic storm to protect flooding on downtown D.C. Do you know if that flood wall will be erected for this storm or in place?
I don't know. Is anybody? Chris?
That's a great question, and right now we're monitoring that along with National Park Service. There's a series of things that happen if we were to get coastal flooding. The track of the storm is not showing us that we're going to receive that coastal flooding now that it's looking like it's coming a little north of us. Won't be driving that storm surge up the Potomac like it potentially could. Now, that track could change. So we are in contact with not only the Corps of Engineers but also with National Park Service, who has a very large role in that, so that we don't have the Tiber Creek again run from river to river and inundate the southwest area. So we are paying attention to that. We are talking through that in case it does happen, but it does not look like that's a big potential right now.
How quickly can you get that wall?
The plans can go in place pretty quickly. We're really monitoring right now over the next, say, 6 to 12 hours as to where the storm tracks. If we don't see that big storm push, they won't go out and do the ahead of time measures. However, on the back end of this storm, we do have the potential for increased what they call freshwater flooding that could come down the Potomac. So that's another thing we're looking at, but that's a few days out. We're really kind of concentrating right now on what's the immediate.
Hold on, Tim. Let me get people who haven't had a chance to ask a question yet. Martin.
Any contingency plans for the early voting centers? For the early voting starts up again tomorrow for the week. So any plans?
We're going to consult with the Board of Elections this afternoon to understand exactly how they plan to handle. This is an independent decision of the Board of Elections, so I don't want to venture out on plans, first of all, that they haven't announced, and certainly, obviously, I don't know yet. But we're going to ask them to make that very public later today. Yes?
Are you really emphasizing people stay home because they may wake up tomorrow, think it's okay, go to work, and that's when it really turns bad and people are on the roads, hard for first responders to actually get to where they need to be?
Yeah, we are. I mean, again, by closing the schools, we're sending a message that we think that there will be conditions tomorrow that would warrant children not going to school. Obviously, their parents will be involved in that as well. We will be consulting with the Office of Personnel Management. I think it's 5 o'clock this afternoon to understand what they intend to do with the federal government so that we haven't as yet, but we could take steps to indicate that some of our D.C. government employees should stay home tomorrow. We have not made that decision as yet, though, so let me make that clear. And we want to do that in concert with the federal government. But, you know, anybody by tomorrow morning that doesn't understand the severity of this situation must have been completely out of communication. All right. Yes, in the back.
Just to clarify what you just said, you said other city offices right now, there haven't been plans to shut them down. You're talking with OPM, so that way federal and city will kind of make a decision together.
Correct. Yeah, we'll do that in concert. They haven't made any decisions yet. We've obviously been talking with them. They have not made any decisions, and it's our understanding at 5 p.m. today they will reach a conclusion. Let's see now. Are we back around second? Patrick, have you asked the question yet? You have, haven't you? Yes, you did. So I'm going to go back to the start of the line. Tim, Tom, Patrick.
You actually just clarified my question. I was asking when the DC government was closed, and are you advising companies located here to close as well, so there's not like rush hour or something in the morning? You said you made it seem like you've not made a decision yet about whether.
No, you're right, Tim. We have not made that decision, and it's not because of uncertainty. It's because we want to do this in concert, recognizing that we got tens of thousands of people who work in the federal government. We want to do that in concert. And as far as private businesses are concerned, they're going to have to be able to make those decisions based on what business they're in and what the consequences are of closing their businesses. Tom?
Chief Ellerby mentioned how the high winds can pivot them sometimes from going out. Can MPD tell us how the weather affects you as far as your ability to deploy resources, whether you have special equipment, whether you have certain restrictions on what you're able to do or not do?
As far as the winds, we are going to stay out and patrol as long as humanly possible. We do look at when winds start to get around 50 miles an hour, issuing an order to have officers to shelter in place on their beats, and that's probably what we're going to do if this storm reaches that point.
Patrick.
Mr. Mayor, your phone call with the president, you talk about what you're going to be asking for.
Well, I think the president actually requested this, and we really appreciate the fact that he is stepping up to the plate. Obviously, he's stepping up to help our region. So I want to hear from the president. I'm sure the other jurisdictions do as well. We've already declared a state of emergency. We've issued the letter for a pre-landing state of emergency that's gone out today. We hope that will be honored. And then just to make sure that the president, the federal government understand what we're doing to take the steps we're taking here in the city, and obviously to urge him to have OPM to work in concert with us around decisions affecting the city. Yes?
It was Public Works that said you're out at Coolidge this afternoon giving out sandbags. How long are they going to be out there today, and is that going to continue
6 o'clock.
tomorrow? 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock today, yes. And I think it's 5,500. Where's Bill? Oh, okay, 5,500.
2 o'clock. We're reaching the threshold now, so they have to stop.
Okay. We will take one more question, and then, of course, we'll be available throughout the day, today, tomorrow, the day after, the day after, the day after.
Can you please give us, members of the media, some sense of when we will get updates? Will they all be here? Will they be around the city? Will they be everyone on the other side of the river?
The continuing communications on this. I think one of the things that we will continue to do, Tim, as we've done in snowstorms, over the last year or so, which we didn't have a lot of, but when we've had these situations, we've tried to have periodic press conferences. Obviously, we will use less listservs. We'll use our electronic communication to the fullest extent possible. Releases will go out. We'll use, by the way, our internal communication, Channel 16, which is the government's channel. So we'll use them for dissemination of information, too. So there will be multiple methods of communicating, and I don't think there will be any chance that we will be out of touch to everybody, to anybody, really. There'll be some way that everybody can be in touch with us. All right, you'll get the last question.
All right. Is there any extra reinforcement in the Washington Harbor area? I know they flooded before. There's a flood wall, but if the surge is even higher, are there any special processes? Washington Harbor.
As we stated earlier, the nature of where the storm is tracking right now, we're not looking at a major storm surge coming up. However, we do have plans and outreach to all of our harbor facilities so that folks that are boat owners and that are down in that area understand what it looks like as we get closer. We're really following this track right now with National Weather Service. We're getting hourly briefings from them on where is this tracking. We'll have a much clearer picture at 5 o'clock this afternoon exactly where this track will come. But as it stands right now, we're not looking at a major storm surge that we could potentially have if it came up through the bay and through the Potomac River. So We are in contact with them. We are following our plans for any flooding that would happen from a storm like this, but the major storm surge is not something that we think is going to happen right now.
All right, thank you all very much. We'll be continuing communication with you in the hours ahead. Thank you.